Welcome back, mamas. Y'all, today we are going to talk about something that I believe plagues so many of us mothers, and it is a feeling of loneliness, a feeling that we are alone in this, a feeling where we might even go to the point of isolating ourselves from others. And I want to really speak into you if you are in this spot so that you know that number one, you aren't alone, and number two, you do not have to stay there. So let's get to it. Do you wish you had control of your days? That you had a rhythm, but instead feel overwhelmed, scattered, and like there's never enough time? You're in the right place. I'm Danielle, a recovering workaholic, wife, and stay-at-home mom of two girls. I've learned how to reclaim my time and find purpose and freedom so I can be present with my kids and feel like myself again. Here, we embrace where we are, but we don't stay there. So if you're ready to trade the chaos for clarity, the guilt for grace, and the endless to-do list for aligned flow, grab the kiddos a snack and toss in that laundry because I know you're multitasking, and let's do this because your time, your purpose, and you matter. Okay, mamas. So today I want to talk about something that I feel like may strike a chord with a lot of you. And I was thinking about this because over the past week, like this week is Thanksgiving, right? And over the past week, I have been blessed to have a couple of Friendsgivings with some very amazing people and have been feeling very blessed. And over the weekend, it had me kind of reflecting back and thinking about a time where I did not feel so blessed, a time where I felt very alone, a time where I felt very isolated. And I wanted to speak into that because I feel like that may be where a lot of you are sitting right now, in that place where you are feeling very alone. You are feeling very isolated. And I want to spend today talking really into you in that moment. And then I think I'm going to have two parts to this. And on Thursday, we're going to talk about what we can do to get us out of this place, because I remember wanting connection, craving connection, but feeling so lost and so alone. And I started playing almost like tricks on myself in my head. So I want to start with a quote here. This is from Miguel de Unamuno. I don't know. Isolation is the worst possible counselor. Isolation is the worst possible counselor. So, for that, I think back to when I was feeling so alone and I was, in a way, isolating myself. And isolation is the worst possible counselor when you're craving that connection, you're craving something more, but you're almost feeling like you don't deserve it. I remember thinking that I just didn't fit in anymore. I remember thinking that, just my life was so different and so crazy, and that nobody I was around could relate to me. And just creating this story in my head that almost like I wasn't good enough, or my thoughts and my feelings and what I was going through wasn't worthy of, talking about. People were going to think I was crazy. Like I was going to sound nuts, right? Like I was having all of these thoughts that I wasn't even 100% like knowing where they came from or why, and I definitely wasn't wanting to validate them, right? But I was still feeling them, right? I was still sitting in that place. And so when you're sitting in that place and you decide to turn internally as opposed to like looking or talking to someone or looking for some outside help, it is the worst possible counselor, because you tend to feed those stories and you tend to see things in the world that just play into the narrative that's going on in your head, right? I wanted to follow this up with one more quote that's from Chandri that says, "The worst kind of loneliness in the world is isolation that comes from being misunderstood. It can make people lose their grasp on reality." It can make us lose our grasp on reality when we are sitting there feeling alone, isolating ourselves, and feeling like it's because we're misunderstood. It's because no one will understand us. It's because no one gets us, right? It can make us think that people are judging us. People will judge us, right? But we're also almost projecting it onto them. At least I know I was. Like, I remember thinking, like, if I were to say something to Scott, my husband, or to my parents, like that they would think this, that, or the other thing. And also, I do remember thinking that my parents, like, almost like, I don't want to say they didn't love me, but like that they would not be able to understand me, that they were really only around anymore because of my kids. Like, I had convinced myself that I was just like a byproduct almost of my kids. And that if it weren't for my kids, that my parents wouldn't even like the person that I was anymore. Y'all, it was a dark, dark place. And it was not true. Like, when it says it can make people lose their grasp on reality, like, it totally made me lose my grasp on reality. Like, I know nothing changed except for me when I came out of this, right? Like, nothing else changed except for me. It was me changing. It was my story in my head that I was telling myself about where I was, about what I was going through, about this aloneness that I was going to have to just deal with because no one understood me anymore and I couldn't relate to anyone. And, it was all of these like thoughts that almost made me feel crazy, right? And I was sitting with those. And in talking about these things, I recognize that a lot of other moms feel a lot of similar things when we're going through things that we don't think, right? In our head, we don't think are going to be well received by others, right? Or we're having these emotions that we don't think we should be having, right? Like, we recognize that these emotions are something we don't want to have and that we don't want to feel, but we still feel them, right? And so we don't feel that we can share that with anyone. We don't want to share it with anyone for the judgment, right? Like, for what will they think of us if we were to share this? Will they think I'm crazy? Will they, think I'm unfit to parent? Will they, who knows, right? So we just, out of fear and out of, just thinking that other people can't relate to you, you stop sharing and you sit in this alone feeling. And I want to tell you that, number one, you are not alone, because I know I was there, and I know that I have talked to many other mothers who have been in that place as well and felt these same emotions, felt so alone with what they were dealing with, right? And the key is that we can't stay there. We can't become a victim to that, right? It's a story that we're telling ourselves, right? But it's not true. It is not actually based in reality. It is not based in reality. And sometimes it can make us lose our grip with reality when we decide to isolate and kind of give into that loneliness, right? I'm going to read another quote here. This one is from Mandy Hale, and it says, "A season of loneliness and isolation is when the caterpillar gets its wings. Remember that the next time you feel alone." Okay. So I want you to know that you are also not alone, but this is a time where if you lean into it, it can be a time where you're actually getting your wings, right? Like, you're rediscovering who you are. You are figuring out what is important to you. You might feel super lost and super defeated because you thought that once you had this, like once you were staying at home, once you had this family, everything was going to be good. This is what you had wanted. And now you feel unhappy and you feel unsettled and you feel super busy and you feel strained and scattered and you feel busy and you feel all of these things that you did not think that you were going to feel, right? You thought that this was what you wanted, and you feel like it is still what you want. I know I felt like this is still what I want. So what is wrong with me? Like, why can't I just be happy? I used to think that so often. And I was busy and I was doing all of the things and I was still out there, right? Like, it wasn't like I completely went into isolation. Like, other people did not know what I was going through. Now, when it came to the time where I was in my like deep depression, it was actually during COVID. And so no one really knew because we were all isolated from one another, right? And so, that probably made things worse, right? Some people decide to self isolate. And I was doing that a little bit, but then COVID put me into a situation where I think it just exacerbated all of everything that I was going through. And it sent me into that like deep depression, right? And it was so scary of a place to be. But even there, right? Even there, we can learn from it and grow. Even there, we can figure out who we are and figure out what we want now and who we are now and grow from there, right? It says that the caterpillar gets its wings during that time where it's in the cocoon. And so sometimes it does take a transformation, right? It does take something extreme happening. It does take you being super uncomfortable to actually break out of that, cocoon and become this beautiful butterfly, right? That you're meant to be. But there is an uncomfortable period and some uncomfortableness that you have to go through sometimes in order to get you there. And what I want to help you do is to not stay in that period of isolation, of feeling alone, of, falling into the trap of thinking you are alone and staying in that cocoon for longer than you need to, right? I want you to know that there is a butterfly on the other side, right? Like you just need to keep going. Figure out what's important to you. This is what I do in my coaching, right? And so I have one more quote here for you. It's Guillermo Maldonado says, "Loneliness is not lack of company. Loneliness is lack of purpose." Loneliness is not lack of company, it's lack of purpose. You guys, a lot of times we are just lacking that purpose, that feeling that we know what is important to us. We know where our true north is. We know where we're going and how we're going to get there, right? Once we have that purpose, then, we do not feel so lonely anymore, right? We are purpose driven. And then it's our mindset that changes. Loneliness is not a lack of company. I was not alone, right? I was surrounded by my family. I was surrounded by other people. I was surrounding myself with people, right? A lot of the times, but I still was lonely. And it wasn't because I was not around people. It was because I didn't feel like I had this purpose. Like I knew my purpose was to be a mother, but I felt like there was an additional purpose that I was missing out on, that something was missing for me. And maybe you feel exactly the same way. And I am here to tell you that you do not have to stay stuck in that, right? Like you do not have to stay stuck there. We just need to get you back on the right track. Figuring out, paring down, peeling back the layers to figure out what is important to you and why, right? This is what we do in my coaching. I said I was going to have a 2-part to this because I knew I was going to kind of go on a tangent about this feeling that we can get stuck in of loneliness and isolation. And I really want to follow it up on Thursday with what do we do about it? Right? What do we do from here? And where do we go from here? And so stay tuned for Thursday, y'all. But until then, if you want to, please go to my website, prioritizewithpurpose.com, and schedule a prioritization clarity call with me where we will start you on this journey to figuring all of those things out and to figuring out what that purpose is for you, right? So until Thursday, y'all, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, Mama. If so, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and then hit share and send this to a mom who needs this in her day. I'll meet you right here on Thursday. Keep smiling, y'all.